The embargo for this little tablet was like 3 weeks ago. Moving to a new gadget lab really slowed me down. These videos are always really fun to make. I'm a huge fan of Panasonic ToughBook gear, professional, industrial grade, rugged products. And this won't serve as a traditional review because my channel focuses on more consumer grade tech. But when we can, I think it's important to see those trends in the truly professional space and see if there are any good ideas we might be able to borrow for mainstream gadgets. The FZ-S1 is a tank of a tiny tablet. The idea here is it's easily handheld slate for quick reference. And this isn't meant to replace full-fledged rugged computers, but it gives you a bit more real estate to work with over smaller handheld units. You know, like those little scanner things that delivery drivers use. To that point, the tech inside won't seem particularly exciting by mainstream consumer standards, but the use case is more narrowly focused. The SoC, for example, an older Snapdragon 660 is still decently capable today, and the intended audience likely won't benefit from more horsepower when working on a small number of apps. What those industries care about is the long-term deployment and support costs. Less concerned with getting the fanciest coat of paint on every yearly Android update, but making sure to get security updates over years of use. There's a different tier of certification here where Qualcomm can promise much longer support for a handful of processors, knowing that companies like Panasonic will be using them for a decently long window. It's maybe the part of a ToughBook I think consumers could benefit the most from. I'm not so concerned about full OS updates for consumers, and often those consumers associate updates with slowing their phones and tablets down. But I do think multiple years of security patching should be a lot more normal on inexpensive and mid-range phones. But it's the build that gets me so lit up about this line, how overbuilt this chassis is. Designed to take some punishment, but it's also curvy and lumpy where it needs to be. Not just for hands to hold it better, but hands in work gloves to get a really good grip on this. All of the ports have these clicky covers. There's a solid action, you know when they've been opened. And of course, there's a headphone jack because it's silly to remove headphone jacks from premium gadgets. I'm testing the model with an extended battery where it's just so refreshing to use a gadget that has an accessible and easily swappable battery. Even better, this is a warm swap battery. Not enough room to do the dual battery trick here we've seen from other ToughBooks, but there is a little bit of juice in the tablet to keep power up while you switch main battery cells. Everything here is so well considered for a small slate, expecting a lot of aggressive use out in the field. And the traditional compromises we think of aren't deal breakers here when the product handles them like their benefits. You can pick this up and sure, it's a little heavier and thicker than the tablets we're used to. But then you think of the cases we might try to slap on a tablet for a kid, and this suddenly seems much more reasonable. Or the idea that even for grown-ups, you might be concerned about how fragile our slates have become. Most consumers obviously don't need something overbuilt to this degree, but cribbing a few of these ideas for a more mainstream focus would be refreshing. Build docks and accessories on standardized connectors so we know that will get several years of use out of those accessory purchases, and that a battery might be compatible with the next 2 generations of a tablet we might purchase. It's okay if the bezels are a little larger or the back is a little chunkier if we get something for that extra bulk. My daughter is 5 and had 0 issues running around and playing a handful of games with this tablet here. And just a quick shout out to the folks at Panasonic. She only dropped it a couple times and it seems to have survived all of those drops phenomenally well. But still, techies should be able to at least hang with 5-year-olds. I could easily see a streamlined version of this concept positioned for average consumers. Maybe stepping up to a nicer mid-ranger chip like a 765 and arriving at an upper mid-pack tablet price. It's okay to compromise a little compute power if you want to put your money towards build quality. That's all marketing. And telling customers that it's cool to have a more rugged tablet. That would do really well in a lot of circles, especially for families. Not many members of my family rushed out to buy Galaxy Active phones, but they were always some of my favorite to show off. And from there, many of my family would start showing up to family events with much thicker cases for their phones after seeing the kind of abuse I would put on those Actives. Panasonic is making a different claim and has a different relationship with their corporate customers. Deployment tools, flashing and imaging tools, long-term accessory commitments, and that all comes with higher upfront costs. The idea being you'd deploy a gadget like this for a really long window of time out in the field. But every time my daughter brings me our old media pad where she's dropped it and the screen has popped out of the plastic frame again, I keep thinking that the higher costs might be worth it. Even for us. Quick shout out and thank you to the folks at Panasonic. These are always really fun to play with. So I like getting to spend this time seeing, how stuff works on the other side of the fence, the more corporate industrial side of the gadget equation. And if you're curious, you'd like more info on Panasonic ToughBooks, of course, I'll leave a link down below this video. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel, supporting your favorite content creators, never more critical than it's been today. So I greatly appreciate those of you who are checking out those links down below. Maybe you're shopping a little merch. That kind of stuff really does help keep production rolling on this channel. You can find a full list of all my affiliates and partnerships on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider, just maybe, joining the list of names scrolling on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically a collection of the coolest tech pals on the internet, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the web, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.